Research finds that an average person spends 45% of their time listening when they communicate. However, hearing and listening are often grouped together as the same thing. Hearing is passive. It's kind of like breathing. We kind of do it unintentionally and we kind of do it without thinking, whereas listening is active. To be a good listener, you have to be aware that you're doing it. I found a really interesting article online about effective listening and some ways on how you can improve your listening skills. So in my presentation, I'm going to focus on a few points that can help improve your listening skills to be an effective listener. A lot of the points mentioned in this article we had talked about a lot in previous chapters, but there were a few that we either didn't touch on, or if we did, it was really brief, and I thought they were just as important, if not more important, in being an effective listener. The first one that I thought was really interesting was using I messages, starting your statements off with I. It helps, it lets the person know basically what you're feeling and why, and you're basically focusing on the problem, not the person, saying I feel blank. Also, another thing that I think is useful is silence. A lot of people think that to be an effective communicator, you always have to be talking and having a constant conversation going. But in some cases, I think that silence can speak for itself. It allows there to be that kind of comfortable pause, and it can slow down the conversation a little and give you time to think about what you want to say next. Also, it's useful if a conversation is kind of going south or if it's turning into more of an argument versus talking. So sometimes silence can be beneficial in that aspect. Also, putting feelings into words can help a person see things through a more objective point of view. This is referred to as emotional labeling. Using these door openers, they're kind of helpful to get the point across, and they help the person express what they're really feeling. An example used in the article was saying something like, I'm sensing that you're feeling angry or worried or afraid or upset. And then another point that I never really thought to be part of effective communicating is consequences. Sometimes in conversation we might have to address a situation where there could be a possible consequence of an action. The example used in the article could be a response like, well, what happened the last time you stopped taking your medication that the doctor prescribed? Or something like that. It kind of helps the person, it's kind of like a reality check, I think. It kind of helps the person think more logically and level-headed. And then, as mentioned in the book and in the past chapters, things like restating and summarizing, I think, are also really important. It not only shows the person they're actually listening, but it also helps you to remember what they're saying so that you're both getting the most out of the conversation. In my opinion, there are like a million different ways to be an effective listener. Even if you only use a couple of these skills, you are still greatly improving your communication skills. So summarizing and restating what a person has said is so important for both people involved in the conversation. Being able to empathize and vocalize that to the person that's talking to you helps to give them a sense that they're being understood and that someone actually gets how they're feeling. And then sometimes simple things like changing your wording of how you're saying something, like using I at the beginning of a statement, or even having moments of quiet can help with improving better communication. And that's all I have so far. I appreciate you guys for listening, and thank you for watching.